This is Beverly Fowles Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about soap making, because this weekend I'm going to make several, probably one big batch of plain soap, and then I'm going to divide it up and put in fragrances and probably some botanicals like chamomile or some additional things like cocoa butter in order to make soaps. Let me tell you a little bit about that. So many years ago, when I was still working corporate, as you see now, I do a lot of different things, and even then I discovered soap making. It was an article in the Dallas Morning News about using melt and pour soap. So at the end of this, I'll put a link to using scraps of soap and using melt and pour to save soap. Right, but I got this melt and pour, and it was telling you about adding vitamin E to it, or lavender flowers and lavender fragrance and all these different things, oatmeal to make a scrubbing soap for your face. So it had all these things in it, so I decided to try it. And I had a very special friend who was also a masseuse. So I was getting a massage, and I was telling her about doing this soap thing, and she says, "That's not real soap." I said, "What do you mean that's not real soap?" She says, "No, you need to make soap from scratch." I said, "I looked at that, but you gotta use lye, you know, that caustic stuff that can burn you." And she said, "Yes, but once you make soap from scratch, you will never want to use the melt and pour again." She never paid attention to the fact that I won't say I'm obsessive. I am obsessive. When I start learning about stuff, I get obsessive. I buy books, I buy things, I go, you know, and I get involved. So I found this recipe to make 1 pound of soap in the blender. Yes, it required oil and it required lye. Now, back in the 90s when I first did this, you could go to your grocery store and buy a 1 pound can of Red Devil lye. And we always made sure we didn't do Drano or anything like that, because Drano had all this other stuff in it. But Red Devil lye was pure lye. And so I went to the store, I got Red Devil lye, I got olive oil, the cheapest olive oil there is. It's called pumice. And I made this soap in the blender as the recipe called for. And I made it, and I put it into a container and let it cure, and I was hooked. I was so hooked that I said, well, let me try something else. And this, well, the next thing you know, and I'm going to put a couple pictures in here. This is my garage right now. I've got all kinds of fragrances. I've got all kinds of mixes and botanicals and all those things. I just started making more and more soap and giving it away to friends and family till I got to the point I had so much that I made it a business. So I was doing craft shows on weekends, mostly during the holiday season, and I was making soaps and lotions and bath salts and bath bombs and all that kind of stuff. And the first year that I was in a craft show, I got in when everybody, a whole bunch of folks were on the waiting list. And one woman asked me, "How'd you get in the show? When did you apply?" And I had applied like 3 weeks before the show, and I got in. Well, the reason I got in, I found out, was I was the only person selling soaps. the only one selling soaps and lotions and bath salts. So I got in because I was different. And since I was in this show now, I had to, each year I put in my application early, like, you know, when they first sent it to me, and I was in the show. Well, by the time I no longer did that show, there were 6 or 7 different people selling different versions of handmade soaps and lotions and creams. I wound up, I stopped making it as a business. And that's a whole nother video as to why I stopped. But why am I making this? Well, I'm going to take you along with me a little bit as I make soap. I'm not going to teach you how to make soap. I'm just going to share with you that there's ways that you can make your own soap. Soap making was discovered years ago by accident, so I'm told, at a temple where they burned oil in their lamps, and they had fires, wood fires, and as it burned or whatever, and it went down, and I'm thinking of an Aztec temple kind of thing, and so the ashes from the fire was there, and the oil went down, and it got into the water. Before it got to the water, the ashes and the oil combined. And that's what happens. In the ashes is lye. In fact, they used to, pioneers used to take their ashes from their fireplace, and they would put it in water, and they would let it soak, and somehow they put an egg in it, and the egg would tell you whether it was strong enough. You know, it was caustic. And then you heated it up, and you mixed it with oils. They could use bacon fat. They could use tallow from their beef, or, you know, pork fat, whatever fat they had. They would mix it, and then it had this really strong soap. And then over time, as scientists, you know, figured things out, we know a ratio of how much lye I need with a certain kind of oil. But soap making is so, it depends on you. It depends on whether you're interested in chemistry and those kinds of things. And I always was. So one of the first books, there's tons of books, but one of the first books that I ever bought was this one. It's called The Complete Soap Maker. The Complete Soap Maker helped me do things. So I found my first ones on the internet, right? But The Complete Soap Maker tells you about equipment and supplies. It talks about ingredients, and it talks about suet, beef fat, tallow, lard, palm oil. I use coconut oil, castor oil, olive oil. It tells you all that because each one of the oils has a different outcome, right? If you ever heard of Castile soap, that's soap made from olive oil. 51% of that soap is made from olive oil. But I add coconut oil because olive oil soap is soft. Coconut makes it harder, plus it gives you suds. Also, castor oil, a small amount, gives you even more suds. Plus, sometimes when all the oil isn't taken up in the soap making, it leaves your skin a little oil for your skin. So when I was doing the soaps, I had a couple of kinds, but my best-selling soap was soap for mature skin. I was already mature when I started making soap, so I wanted soap that would be kind to my skin. Most soap would dry it out. I'd have to put lotion on it. Well, now I make my soap. I carry it with me everywhere, so when I take trips, I have my own soap. When I've forgotten my soap and I've had to use the soap in the hotel or wherever, it dried my scent out. Another book that I purchased was Making Soaps and Scents. All right, so making soap. So this was by Catherine Barley, fashion editor and stylist. Shows you the secrets of making soaps that add personal touch to your everyday bathing experience. This was a little later. This one is another one. Look at those pretty soaps on there. This was called Essentially Soap, the elegant art of handmade soaps. Now this one did a lot with melt and pour. Talked about what I'm going to say, colors, so putting color in your soaps and that kind of thing, and using botanicals, roses, chamomile, and so on. And when I really got serious, I got soap making for fun and profit. So it kind of... The battery died, the video camera. Sorry about that. But anyway, the whole idea is to take you on my adventure of making soap. And if you want to learn more, there are soap making channels here on YouTube that'll help you learn how to make soap and where to buy your lye. And I buy my oils in the grocery store. Anyway, let me take you on this little adventure of
Okay, so now I'm in the kitchen gathering things together to make my soap. In here is tallow. Right now there's 5 pounds of tallow in here. In this container right here, this one, I have approximately a pound of shea butter, but I will weigh it. Everything gets weighed because soap making, as I said before, is a science. So here's my scale. Looks ugly, doesn't it? Because it's had hot lye spilled on it and hot soap, and all I needed for it is to weigh. In this jar is, I had a huge 10-gallon bucket or 5-gallon bucket of castor oil. So I pour it, so most of it is used up now, but I can only use it for soap. I can't use it for, you know, for medicinal purposes or other things you use castor oil for. So I poured some out, so I need approximately 16 ounces of castor oil for the recipe I'm using. Here is my olive oil. It's pure olive oil. It's classic. It is basically just the last pressing of olive oil. It used to be, you'd see on there, it'd say pomace, P-O-M-A-C-E, pomace oil. So I'm going to be using that. Here is Butcher Boy coconut oil that I buy at Big Lots. So if you have a Big Lots near you, you can get this. Used to come in 128 ounce jars for 12 bucks. Now the jars are 101 ounces and they're still 12 bucks. So I've got 2 of those because I need a certain amount of the coconut oil. This pot, come back, is the big pot. So that pot, what I'm going to do with it, let me get things settled here and move this down. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this big pot, it will go on the scale. And then as I'll pour in the tallow and weigh how much tallow is going to be on there. So put it on the scale, you do tar, which means it takes away the weight of the pot. Then I put in the tallow, weigh in that amount, reset it to 0, put in the olive oil, I'm going to reset it to 0, and then I put in the coconut oil and reset it to 0, so that everything is measured by the formula that I put together, which I'm not going to tell you because this is the science, and if you do it wrong or if I make a mistake, you can mess up your soap and you can get burned, and there's other things there. I have taught soap making classes here at, and I've taught melt and pour classes. It used to be a thing called Fun Ed here in the area, and they went out of business, but I taught melt and pour there. So I would do melt and pour classes on my own, find a place to have it, and teach the melt and pour. But I only teach, making soap from scratch to about 3 or 4 people at a time, because I want to make sure everybody is doing right, that they're all measuring right, and that they come out and they wind up making a 1 to 2 pound batch of soap. And then from there they take the information, I tell them which books to go, where to go look online, so that they can continue to learn. But I teach them the basics. So that's what I'm going to be doing next, is I'm measuring out all of my oils, and I'll be cooking this up in this pot. Okay, well, I'm measuring out my oils. So now I've got 8 ounces of shea butter measured out here. So I'm putting the 8 ounces of shea butter in there, okay, in that pot. For my coconut oil, and that's set to 0, I need 24 ounces. So I'm not going to show you the complete time that I'm measuring these all out, because I had to open that other jar of coconut oil. But this is what I do. I measure them out and then I put it in there. I'm not going to just bore you with all the measurements. I'm just going to put this away. I'll be back after I'm finished measuring. Okay, so once I finish making the soap, I have to put it in the molds. And so many years ago, I bought 3-inch PVC pipe, and my ex cut them in, I think this is foot and a half, I think 1 foot. And so both ends are empty, right? So I have to put a bottom on them in order to do that. I've got one here that already has a bottom on it, and I tape it on. This one is like a cap, and I tape it on to make sure it stays on. And this one is a downspout. Gives me a different shape for my soap. Pretty nice, cute. See, outline of a shape. But this one, it's taped. It's got a plastic bag at the bottom. So I have a bunch of grocery bags that I put on the bottom. So that one's done. Let's see. This one has a cap, but this one I use last because I have a hard time taking this cap off. So that one's going over here for now. But you can go to your store and you can get an end cap that will hold it in. But I found that sometimes the soap will ooze out. So I do it like this. I take my plastic bag, I cut them in half. I use 2. I really shouldn't be using these scissors. These are my cloth scissors. Here's the garbage scissors. Alright, so I have this. I'm going to fold this in half, like so. Fold it up. I'll put it on the bottom. And when I fold it on the bottom, you already see I got duct tape there. So I take duct tape, and then basically I duct tape the plastic on tight, so that even if I do get a leak, it doesn't leak a lot. Now, there are soap molds. I'll show you a picture of one I have. But even there, you really should put a plastic liner on it. Alright. So now, this one, I pour the soap in here, and it's done. This one is the downspout. This one has a smaller cap on it than that other one. And what happens is, once I pour them, I put them in this styrofoam container. Now the lid is long gone, so what I'll cover it with is a piece of plastic, heavy plastic, like the heavy garbage bags, and then newspapers. What I'm going to do for at least 24 hours is leave the heat in there so the soap continues to cook. And then after 24 hours, I take the lid off, and then I let these sit for at least a week before I go to, and so that they're good and solid, and I come in and I push them out of the mold. Okay, this is my next step, mixing the lye water that will go into the oils that will have a chemical reaction and do what is called saponify the soap and make soap. Now, this is the part of my making soap that I am extremely careful. Lye is caustic, which means it will burn you, it will cause you major illness if you get any in your mouth or you drink it. If you accidentally drink it, you're dead, right? So you have to be careful. You have to be careful about your eyes. So my daughter did the lawn yesterday, so she got the other pair of goggles or safety glasses. These are my old ones that I have, but a pair of safety glasses. These will go over my reading glasses so I can see what I'm doing. Rubber gloves. I don't have a new pair. Every so often one side goes. This will be my right hand, but you want some rubber gloves. So these are the two I'll be using. Don't ask me. I have no idea where the other ones went. They probably, the finger part probably went bad. So I got rubber gloves. I got my safety glasses. I have old clothes on. Old clothes that I don't care if, you know, a little bit of lye might spill on it and destroy it. I have an apron on to help protect me. So this is a very protective item. So I had that 50-pound bag of lye. I went out there and I transferred a whole bunch of it into this container, which I've always used. Instead of going into that big container of lye, I go get that lye, put it in this sealed container, this plastic container that's pretty well airtight, and then I reseal up that 50-pound bag, seal up the plastic bag inside, seal up the paper bag that's on the outside of it, put another piece of plastic over top of that to keep the moisture out, and then it's in a garbage bag because I want to keep the moisture out of it. So this is the lye. This container is the only container I use to mix my lye water. This is a measuring cup. In this, the only thing I measure with this, in this is the distilled water. I use distilled water because city water has a whole lot of minerals and chemicals and things in it. So I want to be sure of how this is going to react with my oils. So I use distilled water. I measure out the distilled water. I put it in the container. Measure that out, put it in I measure the lye in this container here. The measurement is, I went to a specific website called The Sage, and they have a lye calculator. And I think I mentioned this previously, that depending on the types of oils dictates how much lye is needed, because each oil has a different saponification level. And so I put in there my formula of all the oils I'm going to use, and this calculator gives me 10 numbers. One, if I want to take all the oil out and I want to use it all, which is the most dangerous because you never know. There's some, it could be plus or minus. So you never want to go zero. The recommended amount is to have some 5%, 6%, 7% excess fat. And my excess fat is going to be castor oil. So I'm going to mix all this up, and at the very end I'm going to add the castor oil in there, and it will do some saponification, but some of it's going to be left so I can have nice smooth skin, moisturized skin when I wash. Okay. So the main thing with this is that I measure the water into the pitcher, the lye into this particular container, and I mix the lye into the water. That's the rules. If you mix the water into the lye, you could have a major volcano and a spillover and all that. By being able to move the lye into the water, you are able to control that. So I'm going off screen because I told you I'm not going to teach you this. I'm not going to tell you the amounts, but this is my process. I've got a piece of plastic underneath in case I spill it. I need to pull it over to the edge of the counter. And then on top of that I have paper. That way if I spill any lye, it goes on the paper and not on my granite. Okay, the oils are now on the stove and they're melting. And once they melt, we're going to take them and use the thermometer. So they're not quite melted, but I'm going to melt them down and get them to 105 degrees. And once it's at 105 degrees, and I've measured the lye to make sure it's at about 105 degrees. Okay, so I put the thermometer in here to see how hot it got, and I said, about almost 150 or 200. It is, I don't know if you can see, or if I turned it right, but it's 175. So it's got a ways to cool down, and I'm slowly heating the oil. So when this cools down to 105, between 105 110 degrees, I'm going to take that and we're going to mix it in with the oils. Okay, the oil is now at the right temperature. The lye is at the right temperature. I'm going to put on my gloves to protect my hands and arms from splash. I have my glasses on to protect my eyes. I am still in my apron, okay, and my old clothes, so any splatter on that would not take place, right? So here I am, and so start by, I'm going to slowly pour some of the lye water in, and as it came in, it started reacting with the oil. I don't know if you've seen some of the lighter piece there. Pour some more and stir some more. You see the lightness? So the lye is interacting with the oils, and I just want to, and I mean it's like immediate. And what I'm waiting for, or looking for it to happen, is that this becomes like pudding, thick pudding. Now once I get all of this in here, I'm going to use the stick blender to make sure that this gets spread out evenly. So I wanted to show you just the initial mixing. And it's getting a little thicker as it starts to make soap. But there's still a lot of loose lye in here and still a lot of soap. So then I'm going to put my blender in, and this is on what is called the baby food. I'm starting the blend. I'll be back. Okay, so I'm now here, and this is sticking up pretty quick, but as it heats up in the container, it will thin out a little bit. I didn't use a lot of water in this particular batch. And this is how I feel the tubes. So shaking so that any air pockets will be taken out. Okay, well, it has been 48 hours and the soap has been cooking in the styrofoam container with newspaper and plastic all over the top because I don't know where the lid to this thing went. So I'm going to take one of the first ones I did, which is this one. This is the unscented one. I've got gardenia, which is this white one. I've got apple, which is green. I've got one that's pink, that's like a rose that I've done. But I just want to show you now how I open it up and slice it. Okay, so I've already opened up the one container. What I have is a vegetable can that I use to push through, and I had this, I guess is a piece of 2x2 wood, and I put the can in and I just pushed until I pushed the soap back out, and then I put the soap on the slicer and slice the soap. But right now, the key is to take off the bottom. I just slice through all that work to tape it up. Okay, and so I have that little piece on there. And sometimes it takes a little bit, but I got to pull it off. That little bit of soap stuck on the bottom. I'll just stick it back because the soap is still soft. The soap will get hard over time. The issue has been I went out to find my old bread racks and they're not in the garage. The only thing I can think of is they're out in the storage shed, and who knows when I'll find those. So I'm just going to work with a little piece of styrofoam. Because what you want is something that has holes in the bottom, and it's going to be up off so that the air circulates. So this is, you know, a rack of some time, an old oven rack. Got one of those in the garage too. But so the messy end, put my can, right, put it in my can, put this like that, and then it is mussels. And sometimes, well, this one didn't take long, but sometimes it takes a lot of strength to get, whoops, the soap out. But it's sliding out really nice. And I'm going to slide it. And that's what it looks like. Oops. Alright, I'll get that in a minute. This is what it looks like. It's got a little bit of extra oil on it, which is what I wanted. But that will give it some, what I want to say, softness on your skin. You'll have that. And that oil should be the castor oil because it was the last one oil I added after I mixed all the, got the saponification going, right, that I showed you. And then after it started saponifying and making soap and it looked like it was pretty well done, I added the castor oil. Now, this bottom is pretty flat because it was on the end that had the container on the end. This side is rough. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this one little piece there, or I can put it on the very end so that goes, and then I tell you, this thin wire, my ex-husband did a good job on this. All right, he measured really well. All right, and so it cuts it. This is the rough end, and here's the other ones. Now, it's going to be several weeks before this becomes hard because the water has to evaporate out of it. See, this is the other end from the other one. Okay, this soap is the unscented that my daughter wanted. So how many bars did I get out of this? I don't know. You see them all? Yeah. So these are the ends. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 bars from the 1 foot 3 inch PVC pipe. Okay. That is how I make soap and how I make the bars. Hopefully you might look up or go find ways or go get yourself the melt and pour and do that. Maybe one day I'll do a melt and pour video. But this is how I make soap. Hopefully you'll go and find some books, or if somebody in your area is doing soap making classes, look on Facebook, or even look for how to make soap here on YouTube. I didn't want to give you the formulas or the, you know, all the ingredients and the percentages of the ingredients, because that I truly don't want to be responsible for a messed up batch of soap for somebody get burnt with lye. Nah, that's not what it's about. But how to make soap online. Go to the store, buy a soap making book, and learn to make soap. It's better for your skin. You'll learn all that. Or here, I'm going to put in the description the website that I go to do my calculations for how much oil and how much lye other. It's thesage.com, thesage.com. Anyway, if you thought this was a valuable lesson or idea for you to try something new or to create something in your life, for me, this is better for me and my family's skin and my friend's skin than buying commercial soap, but that's my personal opinion. So if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. And be sure to share this video if you know somebody that might be interested in what it takes to make soap. As you have believed, let it be done to you. And it is so, and I will see you in the next video.